Okay, so good morning, friends. Once again, I welcome you to this live session of machine learning. So, as I just mentioned, we will start with the the last part of the cross validation. That is the different techniques, different cross validation techniques, and then I will start with the next topic, that is types of machine learning. Well, so let me share the presentation. So I'm sharing the screen. Please let me know that whether the screen is visible to you all.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, great. So let us start, guys. Okay. Okay, so we'll see today what are the different cross-validation technique. Before that, we'll just take a recap of what we have seen in the last lecture. So yesterday we have seen the cross-validation and why we use the cross-validation. So the technique that we have seen on yesterday, it is one kind of cross-validation technique, and it was known as the k-fold cross-validation technique, right? So again, in today's brush up lectures, so I'll repeat it again. Okay. So basically, what is the use of cross-validation technique? We have seen that the cross-validation technique, it is used to select the model. Along with that, we also use the cross validation to avoid the overfitting of model. And we know that when the overfitting occurs, when your model's complexities increase, then we declare the model is overfitted. Okay, and we know that when the model is too complex, then it has the high variance. So when to
Sir,
stop? Yes, yes.
sir, can you please explain in short these concepts of underfitting, overfitting, and the right fit? Like in a minute, can you please?
Yes, yes, sure, sure, sure. See, when your model has high bias, that means it is too simple. It is very simple. You have used only 10 instances to train your data as well as to test your data. So that means model is very highly biased. Okay, and when your model has high bias, then we can say that the model is underfitting, because the model will definitely perform better, or it will have 100% accuracy for the trained data set. But whenever you give the unseen data, that is the test data, to your model, then your model start misbehaving, or your accuracy won't be that much good. Like it may be below 50% or more than below 10%, right? So model accuracy is not up to the mark. So that case, we can say that your model is underfitted, right? The models, then we can say that the high variance, when your model has high variance, that when you are increasing the data set size, if you remember that x and y axis I have shown you, the generalization figure, actually it's there in the next part, so let me go back to it. Okay, can you easily is it visible? The slide is
Yes, sir.
visible. Okay, so now I will start here. See now, this x-axis, it represents the size of your training data set, and y-axis, it represents the error rate. Okay, training error rate and testing error rate. Okay, both. So basically, it represents the error rate. Now let's see that when you are having the size of your training data set is very low at this point. Let's say that you are using, this is 10, this represent 20, this represent 30, and so on, and maybe these are the 100. Okay, so when your size of the training data set is very less, there is a huge values of train error and test error, or in this case it is a validation error, right? So now as soon as we are increasing the size of our train data set, and you can see that your train error and test error is gradually reducing. Okay, now this happens till this early stopping criteria, this dotted yellow line. Okay, as soon as your train data size crosses this early stopping criteria, what happens? Yes, your train error will gradually reduce and it will approaching towards zero, right? It is approaching towards zero. But making the training error zero has the impact on the validation error. So what is happening with the validation error? So by reducing the training error, we are increasing the validation error. And this happens because we are increasing the training data size and we are making our model very complex. So as the size of your training data set is increases, definitely the model will be more complex. And if model is complex, that means definitely you will at some point of time you will get the zero training error, but reducing the training error or making it to zero will increase the validation error. Okay, and that is what the variance. Okay, that means what we are getting high variance. Okay, the bias is low. Okay, the bias is low because we are getting training error zero. That is bias. We are not making our model biased because we are using the all the different types of data, all the different types of training data set. Okay, the cases, different types of cases within the training data set, right? So bias we are making low, but reducing bias will increase the variance. And that's what we have seen. It is there is a trade-off between the bias and variance. If you try to decrease the bias, your variance will increase. If you try to decrease your validation error, your train error will increase. And this is what the bias variance trade-off. So whenever your model is highly biased, then we can say that the model is underfitting. When your model has high variance, then we say that the model is overfitting. That means model is too complex. Underfitting means what? Model is too simple. So what is expected? So it is expected that there should be a proper balance of bias and variance. And how do we get that? What is the criteria or what is the solution to this? How do we decide that this is the proper balance of variance and bias values? So this early stopping criteria, which is denoted with this dotted yellow line, solid yellow line, that gives us the proper balance of bias and variance value. Is it clear? Who had asked the question?
Yes, sir. Shweta.
Okay. So whenever there is a proper balance of bias and variance, that means the variance is neither too high, neither too low, as well as bias is neither too high nor too low, then we can say that the resultant machine learning model that we have constructed using this trained data set is right fitting model. I hope this is clear. Well, we'll go back and I'll come here. So the model is overly complex model. This model is overly complex model. Why? Because it has a lot of the size of the training data set which is used to build this machine learning model is very large. Okay, and we know that if the size of the training data set is very large, you can see that a lot of features are used. That means so many features are there. So this decision tree is basically constructed using a lot of features, and that's why the model is very complex. So when to stop the training before model gets too complex? So that is actually mentioned in this slide, which I have just mentioned. So early stopping criteria will give us the solution when to stop the training of model. Okay, so at the early stopping criteria, till this point, we can start training our model, or we can continue training our model. As soon as we cross this dotted early stopping criteria yellow line, which has the impact of reducing the train error but increasing the validation error. So whenever the validation start increasing, so we should supposed to know that, or we should supposed to realize that this is the right time to stop training the model, right? Okay. So now we'll come back to the validation set. So we know that we are using the we have discovered the third type of data set in the machine learning. We have already introduced, or we have familiarized with the existing two types of data sets. Trained data set that is used to build or construct the machine learning model along with the machine learning algorithm. And then we have also seen the test data. So test data is used to test the quality of your machine learning model or the performance of your machine learning model. And then comes the validation data. So validation data is used for what purpose? To determine when to stop the training of your machine learning model. Okay, so that your model would be neither too complex nor too simple. So we can get the right fitting of model using the validation data set. I have already explained this. So this is what the example of when to stop the training. So what are the different ways to create and use the validation set, right? So this was the question which I had asked on the yesterday's lecture. So there are in total there are four techniques, four cross validation technique rather, I should say. So first cross validation technique is holdout method. Second is random subsampling. Third is k-fold cross validation, which we have already discussed in the yesterday's lecture. Whatever the technique that I had used or I have discussed with on the yesterday's session, it was basically the k-fold cross validation. And the last cross validation technique is the leave one out cross validation. Okay, so it is also called as LUCV.
Hello, sir.
Yes. Yes.
Sir, the one topic which we learned yesterday, that the nearest neighbor one.
Yes.
Was also the part of cross validation, right?
No. I just took the example of machine learning algorithm. See, again you are making mistake, right? Let me clear why I have chosen one nearest neighbor classification, because it is basically called as k nearest neighbor classification algorithm. These are the machine learning algorithm. Same as linear regression, then naive Bayes algorithm, then clustering algorithm, K-means clustering, hierarchical clustering. There are thousands of machine learning algorithms. I have chosen this k-nearest neighbor algorithm just to show you the use of cross validation. That's it. It has nothing to do with the cross validation. Is it clear?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Actually, for what purpose the cross validation is used, this technique is used. This technique is used to select the model selection purpose. Along with that, we are also preventing the overfitting of your model using validation data set. These are the two main reasons. So sometimes it is also called as that. Sometimes it is also said that the cross validation is basically the measure of generalization error, right? So these are the four techniques that we supposed to use. Just give me a moment to select the. Okay, I've selected. So this is the first method. This is the first method, holdout method. Then second cross validation method is the random subsampling. The third cross validation method is k-fold cross validation, and the fourth one is leave one out cross validation. So we'll discuss this. Three methods out of this four. Random subsampling, it is basically a wide method. So I just keep it because I need a separate 40 minutes to explain it. So that's the reason, if time permits, some or the other day, I will take it, no problem, based on your interest and choice. Okay. So apart from random subsampling, I will go to the remaining three methods. So let me go to the first holdout method. Okay. So in holdout cross validation method, the entire data set is available for constructing and or building the model. Okay. So how? So what we are going to do in holdout method, we are creating the two split of the given data. Okay, you can clearly see there is first split is represented shown with the orange color, and the second split is shown with the green color. right? So the first split or the first fold or the first section of the splitted data set, it will be used to train the model, and the second set is holded. That's why it is called as hold out the set, which is used to determine when the training should be stopped. Okay, so you can call it as this is my validation data set. Okay, the fold which is shown with the green color, green rectangular box, is basically kept separated for to determine or to find out when our training should be stopped. Okay, so that is what the holdout method. That's the reason it is called as holdout method. But but remember, in holdout method, the entire data set is available for building and constructing the machine learning model. Only a small segment or a small instance of the original data set will be kept aside just to identify when to stop our training. Okay, training the model. That's it. That is the holdout method. So there is one more extension of the holdout method, the original holdout method, that is repeated holdout method. So in the repeating holdout method, it uses the same process several times, and then randomly it selects the different holdout set each iterations. And finally, the average validation error over all the repetition will be calculated, and then will determine whether to stop the training of machine learning model or not. So what is done? So maybe in the first iteration we have taken this part of data set as the validation. In the second iteration we choose this part of the data set, this fold of the data set, we can say that as a validation data set, and the remaining data set will be used to train the model. In the third iteration we chosen this, and then the entire data set, the remaining data set, will be available for training. So let's say that there are 4 iterations. So what we do, we calculate the error in all the 4 iterations and then take the average of all the validation error in each of the iteration. Okay, that would represent the final cross validation error, and then we'll decide whether to stop the training of machine learning model or not. So that's it from the repeated holdout. So let's go to the k-fold cross validation. I have already mentioned it.
Sir?
Yes.
Sir, in holdout method, which data is used for training? I mean, if all the data we are using for training the model, which data is used for testing?
Yes, that's what I'm telling you. The entire data set is available for the training. What it means that we are not, we are not using all the entire data set, but majority of data set. Let's say that you have 100 samples. Then 95 samples you can use to test your, to train your model, and remaining 6 samples you can use it for the test set. Understood? So only a small portion, or that's why I said a small portion or a small instance of your data set will be used for testing the model, or for will be used as a validation data set.
Okay, sir.
Not the entire data set, not the entire data set actually, but entire data set is available for training the model. Okay. Then in k-fold cross validation set, what we are doing, we are splitting our data set into sections. Now these sections, what I mean is, let's say that we have the 100 samples given as an training data set. So now we'll create the 4 sections or the 4 splits of this data set. Now how do these four splits would be created? They will be equal size. They will be of equal size. So first iteration will get the 25 samples. Second split or second fold will have remaining 25. Third split will have remaining 25, and so on. Right? So the data set will be splitted into a k-fold of equal size. That's what I meant to say. Well, then this in each fold, what we are doing in every iteration, okay, we are keeping the first fold, the first section as reserved for testing the model, and the remaining union of the remaining fold, they will be used to train the machine learning model. And after building the machine learning model, we will test it on the first fold. And this process will be repeated, and every time we will select the new fold for testing purpose. So if there are 4 folds, then there would be the value of k will be 4. If there are 6 folds, then the value of the k will be 6. So that means there will be 6 iteration, or there will be 6 fold. So every fold will once used as a test data set to test the quality of your constructed machine learning model. Okay, so that is what a k-fold cross validation. I have explained it. There is one more figure that I have put in, so where you can easily understand this. Okay, so let's say that there are 10 folds. We are using value of k that we have decided to be 10. So now, for example, I'm just taking example. So there are 10 samples. So the first 9 samples, they will be used for instance, that is 10th instance. It will be used to test the machine learning model. Okay, and then we'll find out the error of the machine learning model for this first iteration. Okay, and this error is represented as E1. Okay, now the same process will be repeated in the second iteration. Only this time the test sample will be the 9th instance. Okay, so we are keeping this 9th instance reserved for testing the model, and all other remaining sample data, all the remaining 9 sample data will be used to build or to train the machine learning model. And then finally we check the error of this iteration, second iteration, so that will be represented by E2. And then in the third iteration we keep the 8th sample data for testing purpose. In the fourth iteration we keep the 7th sample data for testing, and then 6th, then 5, and so on. So in the 10th iteration we are keeping the first sample data, first instance, for testing purpose, and the machine learning model is built with the remaining 9 sample data. Okay, and we will calculate the error, and this error is represented by E10. Then we take the average of all these iterations, average error of all these iterations. That means the cross validation CV, cross validation error, final error E, is calculated as E1 plus E2 plus E3 plus E4, E5, so on, E10, divided by how many errors we have calculated? We have calculated 10 errors. So divided by 10, so that will give you the final cross validation error. Do you understood?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Then I will go to the next. So this is an assignment for you. Can you implement the algorithm for k-fold cross validation? I have given you the steps of k-fold cross validation. So these are the steps of k-fold cross validation. Can you implement them? Can you implement the algorithm, k-fold cross validation algorithm, based on this procedure? Yes or no?
Sir, in what do we have to do this?
I mean, what? Please repeat.
In what do we have to write this algorithm?
So we have seen the different steps of k-fold cross validation algorithm.
Yes.
Right. So based on these steps, can we implement the algorithm? Just, we know that algorithm is what? It is a sequence of instructions, right? So that is basically step. Can anybody tell me?
So then do we only have to write steps like just normal algorithm, or we have to code it?
No, don't code it, just normal steps.
Okay, sir. Then
Yes, sir, that we can do.
then we can do, then we can write the algorithm, sir. It's no issue.
Yes, Vedant. Yes, okay. Please go ahead. That's good. You can type in your chat box or you can mail me as well, no problem. Okay, so I'll go back where we were. Okay, so we are actually at the last, the third type of cross validation technique. So let me go to it. So current slide. Okay, so the last type of the cross validation technique is leave one out. See, this leave one out technique is basically where every instance will be only the part of test data set in every iteration. That is the difference between the k-fold and the leave one out cross validation. Otherwise, they are very same. I just took here just an example. Okay, this may be 100 samples. This may be. Let me go back. Select the pen. Okay, this may be the 100 samples. Okay, so what we are doing? First 90 we are using, and from 91 to 100 we kept it for testing. But this is not the case. We are not using a single instance in the test data set in case of k-fold cross validation. But in case of leave one out cross validation, what we are doing, let's say that again we have 100 samples. So the first sample we are keeping it in test data set, and remaining 99 samples. So all these are 99. They will be used for training the machine learning model. So if there are 100 samples, then there will be 100 iterations. So the number of iterations that will have to be performed, it depends on the size of your data set. If you have 100 samples, then there would be 100 iterations. If the size of your data set is 50, then there will be 50 iterations. But this is not the case in case of k-fold cross validation. Remember, if I have the 100 samples, I am splitting the data set into four folds of equal size. Now the size of every fold, it is always greater than 1. It may be 10, it may be 20, whatever. Okay, if you are creating a 10 folds, then the size of each fold will be 10 samples. If you are creating 4 folds for the 100 sample data, then the size of each fold will be 25. If you are creating 5 folds, then the size of each fold will be 20. But that is not the case here in the leave one out cross validation. Okay, every single will be only used once as the test data set, whereas the remaining every sample data will be used to train the machine learning model. And that is what the leave one out cross validation. That's what the name itself indicate, that leave one out for the cross validation. So leave only one sample for cross validation and use all the remaining data samples for training the machine learning algorithm. Okay, so that's what the leave one out cross validation algorithm. So what is the uses of validation set? So validation set, it is used to address the overfitting problem. That is, we are ensuring that your machine learning model will neither be too complex or it will nor be too simple. Then it is also estimate of the generalization performance. Why? Because using validation data set, we find the generalization error. Okay, and I have well explained you what is the generalization error in first or second session, right? So this basically, this figure will give you the generalization error. So this is, here you can find out your generalization error. Okay, so next slide. So how many data sets we are using in the machine learning? Now, after this, this topic, you can clearly say that we are using 3 different types of data sets in the machine learning. One is the training data set, which is used to construct or which is used to build a machine learning model. Then we use the validation data set, which is used to determine when to stop the training of your machine learning so that we can avoid the overfitting, as well as validation data will also be used as the measure of generalization error. So it gives you the estimate of generalization performance. And finally, the third type of data set is the test data set. So test data set is, of course, it is used to evaluate the performance of your model on the new data, or just to test the quality of your model on the unseen data or on the real time world data. Okay, so that's all. So data sets, 3 different data sets we have used. So validation set is used to avoid the overfitting, as well as it gives you the estimate of generalization. And there are 3 types of cross-validation technique or the cross-validation algorithm that we have seen in this presentation. So first one is the holdout method, second is the k-fold cross-validation, and third one is the leave one out cross-validation algorithm or technique. So that's all from cross-validation topic. I'll just leave it here. If you have any problem, please type in your problem in the chat box. I'll give you 2 minutes and then I will start the type of machine learning task. For next 10 minutes only. So I will give you 5 minutes to ask your questions. Are there any questions? Abhishek, Murankar, Pooja, Vedant, Bhumika, is there any question? Rishikesh?
No, sir. No, sir.
No.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. No.
Maknoor,
No, sir.
Komal, Majan, anyone else? Akanksha, Chandan,
No, sir.
Chandan, Atharva is there? Atharva,
No, sir.
Atharva, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So do you have any problem?
Not yet, sir.
Okay. So can you please tell me which is the best cross-validation technique?
Sir, I think it will be k-fold because for every iteration the size of fold is different, so we get more scope of error check.
Exactly. Exactly. Very good. Anything else that someone want to share apart from this answer? So Atharva is right. Actually, k-fold cross-validation technique is widely used to avoid the overfitting of your model. And the size of k or the value of k is ideally expected to be 10, not more than that or not less than that. So value of k, that is 10, is the ideal value. So what it means, doesn't matter whether the size of your data set is 100, 1000 or 10,000. But what it suggests, take a 10 folds of that data sets and then apply the cross-validation technique. That is k-fold cross-validation technique. Okay, so quickly I'll go to types of machine learning. So now I will go and take the window of types of machine learning. Okay, my slide is visible to all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me start. So towards the end of this session, I will quickly go through the first 2 types of machine learning, that is supervised machine learning and the unsupervised machine learning task. If time permits, let me check whether I can touch to the 3rd type of machine learning type. So friends, so far what we have seen, so we have covered the first topic, that is introduction to machine learning, in which we came a long way where we have seen what is machine learning, what is the motivation to machine learning, the examples of machine learning applications, training versus testing data set. Then we have seen positive and negative class. the ingredients of machine learning, and then we have learned what is the cross validation and for what purpose cross validation is used in machine learning. So now, as a part of this second part of this session, we are going to discuss the types of machine learning tasks. So there are three types of machine learning: supervised machine learning, unsupervised machine learning tasks, and semi-supervised machine learning tasks. So to start with the supervised machine learning task, the supervised machine learning task is nothing but grouping of the data with the prior information in terms of labeled data, which is known as the supervised learning. So what supervised learning says? Supervised learning says that when we have the prior information of the data set in terms of the label of data. Okay, so that means whenever the label of your trained data set are known to us, we call it as supervised learning. The entire environment is under control. Remember, if I have already mentioned this supervised learning in the first or second session. Okay, whenever our trained data set has the labels and the entire environment is under control, then it is called as supervised learning. So in training data, each instance is a pair of an input object and its desired output value. So the supervised learning is to have the input variable X and the output variable Y, which is shown here. So here X is represented as input variable and Y is represented as output variable. Whereas the f of X, it is an algorithm to learn the mapping function from the input to output. Okay, so f of X is generally referred as the mapping function of your algorithm, which maps the input variable to its corresponding output value. Got it? So a supervised learning, it analyzes the training data and produces the inferred function, which can be used to map the new example. So this is the pictorial representation of the supervised learning, where we have this sample data. The labels of this sample data are known to us. Okay, and what we are doing, we are extracting the feature from this data set, and these features will be given to the machine learning algorithm, and this machine learning algorithm, the output of this machine learning algorithm is the machine learning model. Okay, and here you can see that the labels of this training data set, they are known to us. Okay, then after building the machine learning model, what we are doing, we are giving the test data as an input to this constructed machine learning model, and we predict the result. So that is what the supervised machine learning model, where the labels of the trained data set is known to us. So what are the different types of tasks that comes under the supervised learning? So supervised learning has two types of tasks: classification and regression. So what is classification task? A classification problem is the problem when the output variable is categorical variable, such as red, blue, disease or no disease. So these are all basically the categorical variable. When I say that classify the given, let me go back and select the pane. Okay. So categorical variable means what? When your variable has a discrete value, then it is called as the categorical variable. And whenever the output has categorical value or the discrete value, then such type of task is come under the category classification. The example is given here. Suppose you want to classify the given image into a colors, different types of color category like red, blue, and green, right? So you will classify the given image to each of this category, maybe red, blue, and green, because these are the categorical variables, categorical output variable, and they have the discrete values. Same example here, disease and no disease. Okay, these are also categorical variable. Or whenever your output variable has the Boolean values like 0, 1, disease for 0 and no disease 1. So that represents it is a classification problem. Then the regression problem. So a regression problem is when the output variable is having a real values such as dollars, weight, so on. So for example, given the height of the person, we supposed to predict the weight of the person. Okay, now for example, the height of person that is given to us is 5.2 and the weight of the given person is, let's say that 55.5. Okay, the height of the person is, let's say that 5.7 and given the height, the weight of the person that we have predicted 75 kg, 0.5 kilogram. Okay, 500 kilogram. Okay, so that's it from supervised learning. Let us quickly go to the unsupervised learning. So in machine learning, task of unsupervised learning is that of trying to find the hidden structure in an unlabeled data. So the training data is unlabeled. We don't know what is the output value of the given input instances. So there is no error, no reward signal to evaluate a partial solution. So unsupervised learning is to have the input data X and no corresponding output variable. So the goal of unsupervised learning is to model the underlying structure or the distribution in the data in order to learn more about the data. So how do we find out this underlying structure or distribution? So based on the similarity and the dissimilarity amongst the input instances, we'll create the clusters or the groups of the given input instances. Okay, so if I'm using the similarity as a measure to create the groups, then in one group, all the given input instances will be of same type. For example, let's say that 500 students, they have been gathered at the square of this C building. Now I want to create the groups of those students. So what I will do, I will create a group with the similar type of students. That means the students of IT, I will call all the students of IT, they come in the first row. So all the students of civil come in the second row or stand in the second row. So likewise, I am creating the clusters. Now what this cluster represents? The cluster, they represent the similarity amongst the group. Okay, so every group will have the similar type of elements or instances. So these are called the unsupervised learning because unlike supervised learning, above there is no correct answer and there is no teacher. Okay, so the environment is not under control. We do not have luxury like the supervised learning has, which gives us the label of our trained data set. So in unsupervised learning, quickly we go through and we'll sum up and we conclude. So we have the trained data set, but the labels of this trained data set, they are not known to us. So it is unlabeled. Okay, then we find out the features from this data set. We'll give it to machine learning algorithm. Machine learning algorithm produces the machine learning model. And just to test the quality of this machine learning model, constructed machine learning model, we use this test data set. So this is my test data set. This is also unlabeled. The test data set is also unlabeled. Okay, so we also extract the feature of this test data set, we give it to the constructed machine learning model, and then we find the likelihood of the instances, or we create the clusters of the instances, or we can give the better representation to our classification, right? So that's it from unsupervised learning. So to the last slide of this, unsupervised learning has two types of tasks. One is clustering, creating the clusters, that is creating the groups, and then association. So association task means what? Where we are interested to find out the relation or the association between the items or the instances. So clustering problem is where you want to discover the inherent groupings in the data, such as grouping the customer by purchasing behavior, by the the income, by age. So we are creating these different types of cluster. In association, an association rule learning problem is where you want to discover the rules that describes the large portion of your data, such as people that buy the item X also tend to buy item Y. Okay, for example, the people, let me take the pen and I will start. If the people, X people, if they buy the milk, X is the milk product, Y is the bread. Okay, and this is my X1, or you can call it as Z1. Z1 is the first person. So the people, I'll just represent. Z1 is my first people. So if people, first people, if it buy the milk, then what is the likelihood ratio that the first person will also buy the bread? So here we are trying to find out the relations between the item X and Y. Item X is what? Item X is milk and Y is my bread. So X is milk and Y is bread. So we are trying to find out the relation between these two items, X and Y. That is the association domain. So that's all from my end. I know that I took your 5 minutes extra. So apology for that. So I hope you don't have any problem. If you have any problems, we'll quickly go. I will give you 1 minute. I think after this, you do not have any lectures. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you have any questions, please let me know. I will just I would like to answer your questions. Any questions? You can type in chat box, use your messenger. No, sir. Abhishek Singh, no. Anyone else? See, please feel free to ask the questions. Rohit, any problem? Rohit Vishwakarma? So shall we stop? Tell me, everyone. Shall we stop? So Bhakti is saying, do not stop, sir. Okay. I know that you are you want to rush for your lunch, so I do not want to come in between your lunch and you. So that's all from my end. Thank you again, once again, for patiently listening and interacting. But still, I want the more interaction from your end, and that is typically in the form of questions, right? So it's very essential, the two-way communication for any online interactive classes, right? There should not be one-way communication. Okay, so that's all. Thank you once again, and see you in the next live session, where I will first take the remaining part of this slide, that is semi-supervised learning, and then we'll start with the feature selection and feature extraction, and most probably after that we'll come to the last part of our first unit. Thank you all. You can end this meeting now.